Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to a new episode of Transformers Talk, where we will be continuing our issue-by-issue review of the new IDW Transformers series. Now, since the last part of this series, there has been some changes to how I'm going to do this series. Last time it was going to be a Commander's Cabin series, focusing on reviewing each issue by issue. However, obviously I got behind on the issues, and I've also started merging stuff from Commander's Cabin over to Commander Radix, which means I don't want to spam my audience with just Transformer videos every 2 weeks. So we're going to be accumulating these issues, so there might be a review video for this series once a month instead of every 2 weeks for every issue by issue. I apologize if I sound a bit echoey in this video. The mic's a bit farther off because my cat is sitting on the desk, so I have to have the mic on the side thing. But so today we're going to be catching up with what I needed to read, which is Transformers number 2 through number 5. And let me tell you, nothing happens until number 5. Issues 2 through 4 are slow. Like, it was nothing but dropping world-building stuff here and there, but plot-wise, not much was actually happening. Prowl and his people were on this search for the Void from issue 1, and that's about it. Bumblebee kept showing rubble places on Cybertron. That's about it. Optimus and Megatron were arguing with each other, and well, not Optimus. Orion Pax and Megatron were arguing with each other, and that's about it. So this constant doing nothing is boring me. But let's see. Transformers number 2. It mentions that Brainstorm is the first death on Cybertron in a long time. Not ever. A later issue reveals that there was once a war on Cybertron against the threefold Spark, and only about half the population on Cybertron wouldn't remember the last time a Cybertronian was killed. However, they do establish that there is violence in space and on the Cybertronian colonies. So, Cybertron itself is pretty safe, but the colonies and space are not so. We learn that the Voids, throughout the few next issues, we learn that the Voids are one creature that controls several other creatures. So that's how the Void work. And they're licensed. They can only go in certain areas if they have a license. We learn that the Energon source of Cybertron is Cybertron's moon, which they have rigged to create Energon out of the fabric of reality, which is an interesting way to mine Energon. Since you're literally pulling it out of thin air, yet somehow there's an Energon crisis, which is whatever. A lot of the alien species on Cybertron are there because they are refugees, which tells me that there's a lot of war going out in space. And I'm getting this feeling that Cybertron itself is like this isolated quarantine community. The equivalent of having like tall walls to keep you safe from the craziness of the outside. Like you're in in World War Z, how Israel survived because they had the walls. But with Cybertron being so safe, I wonder why Megatron is so upset. They vaguely reference the Nominus Edict several times throughout these few issues, but it really just seems that the Nominus Edict limited Cybertronian expansion. It limited forging. When Cybertronians came into existence, they walk out of this pyramid thing and meet their mentor. And it just looks like it's an energy conservation effort. So I wonder why is the Nominus Edict such a big deal? They also took away their weapons, so it did bring in a form of gun control policy to try to control the population. But besides that, I wonder why Megatron is so upset on Cybertron. Why is there so many discontent people? And they do establish that there are a lot of different factions on Cybertron. Besides just the Autobots and the Ascenticons, there's also the Rise, and then the another group that I can't remember, the religious group. There's an attack on the Ascenticon speech, and Megatron's speech. They fall under attack. So this is shaping up to be a little bit of a mystery story. These different factions are kind of looking like political parties. They reference that the Autobots are the security forces on Cybertron, and they also control the Senate. And we know that Optimus and Megatron are senators, so it leads me to believe that when they say Autobots control the Senate, that more means as like the Autobots are the political majority of the Senate or something, which is an interesting take on the factions of Cybertron. The Decepticons set up this military unit, and it includes Egoh 1, which is interesting. Freud shows up, ya boy Freud. So it's interesting to see James Roberts' OCs being brought up into new writer territory. Again, we have the reference for the threefold spark. Sentinel Prime is established to exist. He's the Prime, but he's also off-world during this time. And in Sentinel Prime's absence, Orion Pax is leading the Autobots, which tells me that when violence really breaks out, maybe Sentinel will come back to Cybertron and then get killed, then Orion becomes Optimus. Or maybe they'll just do a throwaway line that, oh, Sentinel Prime died in the colonies. Orion Pax is in charge now. That would be lame, but it could happen. We get a lot of like full-page spreads for like really cool-looking things, but then they're never really explained. Or if they are explained, you're like, okay, how is this relevant? This either has to pop up later in the story, or you just wasted my time. The Leviathan is one of those things, this big transformer that's just going around mining energon. Codexa is another thing, this weird Cybertronian that has like roots all over the place with like dead bodies that Orion Pax is talking to. I'm like, Orion, why are you talking to this weird creature? That happened in issue 3, and like issue 4 and issue 5 go by and it's still not addressed. Again, these books are going at a real slow pace. Transformers number 4 starts off with Cyclonus. We get to see good old Cyclonus again, but Cyclonus, I kind of like Cyclonus in this book, but like, there are so many subplots going on that they have to be ignored every other issue, and it just feels so much like a drag. Cyclonus has these weird ghost hallucination things who look like they're perpetually in a state of being Thanos snapped. It's actually pretty cool. I want to see where this goes, but right now, the way this book is set up, I haven't felt the confidence that these little plot points or world-building stuff are going to be followed up on. We have a scene with Brainstorm's funeral that everyone pretty much goes to. They established that everyone knew Brainstorm, but I never really see anyone say they liked Brainstorm, so it's interesting that there was such a large funeral, although it was the first murder on Cybertron for a long time. One thing I've noticed with this book is the background scenery is either really good and detailed or really bad, especially when they're out in Cybertron, like away from the city, because that is just a big flat space with nothing on the horizon, which is like really boring. Transformers number 5 also sets up that there's something going on with Bumblebee, and that he was expelled from serving with the security forces, and now it looks like he's trying to join the Ascenticons. He meets up with Soundwave, who's a member of the Ascenticons. Specifically, he wanted to meet up with Egoh 1, which is interesting. But we also established that Soundwave is a senator, which is another interesting thing. And the conclusion of issue 5 is when things look like they're starting to happen. Rubble locates the Void that Prowl's been searching for. Prowl's been searching for this Void for information on the death of Brainstorm, and Rubble locates the Void and follows it, but then gets killed. He notices that Quake, who is a Ascenticon who's joined up with the Ascenticon Guard, has killed one of the Void, which tells me that perhaps the Ascenticons, if not the Ascenticons, and Quake has ties to an organization that is responsible for Brainstorm's murder, because by killing the Void you get rid of the evidence. Rubble sees this, and Quake goes on the rampage and apparently, as far as it looks right now with the cliffhanger of issue 5, it looks like he kills Rubble, which I think is a great... Our little character that we've been used to be introduced to the world just got murdered. We saw the murder from his point of view, which was terrifying. But yeah, right now, there's a lot of good world-building seeds being planted, but I'm not seeing these seeds grow. So, the book's moving at a very slow pace right now. I'm hoping that the cliffhanger at the end of issue 5, which is like... So far, this book could be summarized by Rubble and Bumblebee see a murder. They work with the government to try to find the source of the murder. The murder is blamed on different people. They go searching for a creature who might know who the murderer is, and then they find Rubble gets killed in the investigation after the Void is killed. So it's 5 issues, not a lot has happened. A lot of the world building, world building has to show. World building has to build to the plot, you know. So I just hope this IDW universe cannot just be like a. You're setting up a good D&D campaign right now, you know. You're fleshing out the world, but it's just the story needs a little bit more attention, I think. But hopefully we'll see that in future issues. But for now, we're going to have to end it here because I don't want this to be too long. I'll see you guys probably next month when I go for the next installment of this review series of IDW's Transformers series. It again, where like I said at the beginning, there's some changes to what was the initial idea over this series. But yeah, have a great day.